Hello everyone, this is Salesforce Lori, and today I'm supposed to actually continue with this Health Cloud PLC workbook, and supposedly I am at 3.4 point something, but I encountered a hiccup. So I was here, create a new event on the enhanced timeline, and this is actually my second time to try to record this because, like I said, I encountered a hiccup. I was supposed to add a new event to Charles Records, and just to give you a background, earlier I had wait a minute. Earlier I had been showing, I was doing the preview of the engagement timeline where I added this event to the related objects, and when previewing that with Charles Green, the event was the engagement data showed the event there. Although in that past recording about this additional engagement data, we did not actually test that the event appeared here or even at the filter part. Okay, so now the hiccup that I am referring to was when I tried to click a new event on the engagement data timeline, and this is on the actual record page of Charles. I could not find the event, and here's how it looks like. So I'm here on the care coordination, Charles Green, record, timeline, engagement data, and it wasn't here. So it took a while for me to troubleshoot what was wrong, why it wasn't showing here, and I even tried to deactivate and edit again, made sure that my inputs here were correct, and then I reactivated. I tried to log out, log back in. I tried to refresh hard, and still it wasn't showing. So what I realized was that when I went to the actual timeline list, then I noticed that there were two sets of them, and I had to go back to the things that I already did with this workbook, because did I actually add them? Now if you notice here, there are two assessments, there are two clinical data, there are two engagement data, and among these timelines, medical data, clinical data, assessments, engagement data, the only thing that wasn't doubled in here is the medical data, which in a separate video that I created earlier was actually part of the config that I had to do for this workbook. So and in further investigation, if you would look at this first assessment here, if you notice, the timeline API is exactly the same as the timeline name. If you go back to the list and look at the assessment, the other one, this is prefixed with HC, which I presume was in reference to Health Cloud. So that was a difference there. And so because the problem was when I was trying to add a new event, I wasn't seeing that here. Let's change it to engagement data. So I was hoping to create a new event, but it wasn't showing up. So what I realized was, okay, let's go back to the timeline. Okay, so what I realized was that I was viewing this engagement data here, which has this HC and that has the right number of related objects, right? And if I would go back to, oops, let's go back to the timeline, and now this other engagement data, which does not have the HC prefix, has only 3 timeline related objects. So that's what is actually showing up here, which, if you remember in a previous recording that I made, the way to configure that was to go to the record page and go to the timeline, go here, and once it appears on the right side, we can then configure these, because obviously the engagement data here is the one without the HC. The problem with this is if you try to select the other one, let's say I move all of these back to the left, it's like, so how do I know which one is which, right? Because it's not showing APIs here. So one thing to do is, okay, let's just put them there, right? But how do you know that these are all HC? So one thing that I tried to do was to deactivate the ones without HC. So let's go try that. So this is without HC, and we're going back to, I don't know why it cannot just go back to the timeline right away. So I'm going to deactivate that. Okay, once that is deactivated and I try to reload this, notice what happens. To those timelines. The one that I deactivated was the one who was there originally on the page record. So let's go back to the timeline and here, and wait for the timelines on the right side. Okay, see how the assessments were gone because I deactivated them. So in that sense, you can go back there and select it won't appear anymore. It's just what's remaining as active. So we can move that there. All right. So we have that assessment. Okay. And then we can try to do the same thing with clinical data, engagement data. Like I said, there's only one medical data. So what happened with this though in the clinical data, let's just make sure that this is the one without the HS. Okay, so that's correct. So we can deactivate this, but I tried that earlier. It did not work because it was giving me this error. So what happens if that's the case, right? Let's just proceed first with the engagement data. Let us make sure that this is the one without the HC. And then let us deactivate that. Okay. Now let's go back to here and reload this page. And you will see that that one will also be gone from the choices here, from the selection, I mean. So click on the timeline and click inside the timeline component. And it's kind of slow to load here, but like I said, we want to see whether the engagement data, now that is inactive, is gone. So it's gone there, so we can put this remaining active engagement data to that side. And so there's only one more assessment, right, that we need. And I'm not sure why there's only one assessment there. Did I just... Oh, yeah, I deactivated it already. So, okay. Let's add the assessment. Okay. So now the only problem is the clinical data, right? Like, how do we know whether we're picking the right clinical data since we cannot deactivate it here? Like I said, it was giving me an error. So what you could do here, we can check the other one. The other one has the HC, but that's the one that we want to keep. At least that's what I think I want to keep. So let's see if I can actually edit that one, since I cannot deactivate the other one. Let's try to deactivate this. Okay, for some reason that one could be deactivated, so that now we can actually edit. Now, why do I want to edit this? Because it has this, but it has the same label on here when you're trying to select. So we are going to try to just put that HC there for now. Okay, activate that, save and activate, and then let's reload this. Okay, so now that it's reloading, you're gonna see why I did what I just did. So timeline and then the component, click on that. So we still have two clinical data timelines that are active here. One has HC and one doesn't, right? So now, paying attention to the right side. Okay, so we have medical data, clinical data. We still want the engagement data and the assessment. So now this is what we actually want, because the HC clinical data is the one that has the four timelines, which included the event, right? Nope, that's the clinical data. Engagement was what I wanted to open. Engagement data. Oh, okay. I only have one engagement data that's available, but to be consistent, since I could not deactivate this other clinical data, I wanted this one that I prefixed with HC just to distinguish between the two. So, okay, so I don't want this. Instead, I want this clinical data. So we have those four, and we will save that and activate that. And we will keep this default, and we will go back to the record page. So that now if you go to the timeline and go to the engagement data, you will actually now see event. Even in the filter, you can see the event. So we will be able to proceed. However, I want you to pay attention to this, because I still want to put it back to how it was. So what I'm gonna do now that I know that I have the right API mapping to that, I will then go deactivate this again, and then edit and remove that and keep it in the API. Okay, save and activate. So that we will refresh this, and the HC should now be gone from the record page. And just so you know, I actually created, see, I got it up. So I actually created a ticket using this link here to tell them about this error, which, you know, I don't even know why they had all those duplicate timelines when it was already by default enabled. The timeline was already enabled in the trial org, so it kind of gave some confusion. Anyway, so now that we have we're done with the troubleshooting and removing the confusion, we can now continue to actually do this thing. So we will now add a new event, and let me just open my other. I have a copy of the actual document for this, so that even if I forget what I just read here, I can still look at it while I configure what we have here. So new event on the engagement data, right? Engagement data, click new, select event. So we're going to select an event and assigned to me, assigned to defaults to me, related to defaults to the active patient record. Charles Green, subject, don't forget physical therapy, start date tomorrow, end date tomorrow, 10 a.m. 11. Okay, so we're going to go there. We have related to Charles Green. We're going to put the subject of don't forget therapy, and then start date will be tomorrow at 10 a.m. and end date of tomorrow at 11 a.m. So then they want us to save that, and then your new event will display on a new tab. We'll see. I can actually already see it there. So now we are on that tab, and here are the details that we entered. Now they want us to navigate to the tab for Charles Green and then refresh on the engagement timeline, see new event under upcoming. Okay, so that, and then refresh. Or was I supposed to? Oh, I was supposed to do this one. Okay, let's go back to that event and then go back to Charles Green and engagement timeline, engagement, and then refresh. So I have this, don't forget physical therapy, appearing in that timeline. And that concludes this pretty long video. Sorry about the long video, because, well, it never hurts to show how to troubleshoot what happened. So I'm going to also add some more details about that. I called it a bug when I reported it to this partner learning camp, because there really was no need for two sets of the same labeled timelines, right? So we'll put the stop to this now and see you in the next topic.